Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and I think that I finally fixed my frame rate issue. Long story short, you may or may not have noticed, but for those who did, I had a computer issue a few weeks ago. I've been trying to fix my whole frame rate issue. The last few weeks, two back or not to backs, have been a little slow and messed up. Hours later, hours, way too many hours, and multiple weeks of trying to try this fix and tweak those settings and do all these things, I finally realized I had my camera's USB cable connected to a non 3.0 USB. So I thought it was a software issue for weeks now, which is why I haven't been able to fix it. Yeah. For those of you who don't notice, or didn't notice in any way, shape, or form, this is an unnecessary interruption. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. This is To Back or Not To Back. Welcome to the woes and troubles of being a content creator, spending I literally have spent more than 3 to 4 hours trying to fix this over the last several weeks, trying to mess with different settings, install softwares, reinstall systems. It's been a nightmare, but that nightmare is hopefully over. If I get a single comment on this video saying the frame rate issue is messed up, we're gonna have words. Let's go ahead and jump into this. This is To Back or Not To Back, going over all the Kickstarters of the week, all the new stuff, all the updates. Not really a lot of updates this week. The funding, not funding, the board game adjacent, all of that. But starting off the bat, before we go into that, we're going to have our new segment. Third week in a row now, we're going to have our Cult of the Now. Thanks to whoever suggested that. Someone suggested that. It's not really Cult of the Old. It's Cult of the Now. Basically, every single To Back or Not To Back, I'm going to be picking a single game to highlight as something to kind of remind you that there are cheaper, affordable options out there that you can go ahead and spend a very reasonable amount of money to get a very well vetted game for a very reasonable price point, and you can also get it now. Basically, Kickstarter is awesome. I love Kickstarter. I'm a huge fan of it. I back way too many things, but at the same time, understand that sometimes Kickstarter can just cost you a lot of money for the experience of being along for the journey as opposed to getting a great board game. And so this week we have Hansa Teutonica Big Box over at Game Nerds. I'm not affiliated or sponsored by them, but it's a good price point. $35 for Hansa Teutonica. Fantastic game from Pegasus Spiel. Incredible game, and this is the big box combining a bunch of maps, a bunch of expansions. I mean, this thing's been out of print for a while, or was out of print. Hunting down even just like a single map would have cost you $35 alone, and for $35 over at Game Nerds, you can get this game, and it's fantastic. If you like Euro goodness, this is a great experience, and that's today's Cult of the Now. Hansa Teutonica, you don't have to get out of Game Nerds. Again, not affiliated or sponsored, it just happened to be a good price. But with that, let's go ahead and start this off with board game adjacent. Starting off with the Stackii game storage and game organizer. This is basically a precursor to the Stackii, I believe it's called. The Stackii is a board game table that will be coming from the same creators, but this is the Stackii, starting it off. A collection of assortable, stackable, various resource trays that you can get to, basically, stack them together, store your resources. They have nice little ways of literally stacking them together to clean them up nicely, the little band that goes over the top to keep everything clean, which also means you can both store them nicely, as well as potentially, depending on the height of what you're storing in there, you could even have them all cleaned up from one game to the next to move things from one location to another, mid-game, Grateful Legacy games, campaign games, all of that, to keep things well organized. Unfortunately, as usual with these types of things, they're not cheap, so you'd have to factor that in. And in fact, if you want to see the price points, you're going to have to scroll all the way through this over here. The pledge levels on the side won't really help you. You'll have to scroll all the way to the bottom over here. Let's go ahead and do that. Zoop, 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 zoop. Here we go. Here are going to be the price points for the various options. You can scroll through all the pretty goodness first, which I think is the point. I think they want you to fall in love with the pretty goodness because it is very pretty goodness, but then the price point is, expensive. And that is what it is. It's the nature of any of these systems, from Wormwood, from Stackii, from anytime you see these custom wooden, insert components that are just, they're very, very cool, very, very fun. These are very cool, by the way. They look phenomenal. They have a variety of wood options. They look like very flexible and different types of things that they're doing, from cards to tokens to beer openers to pads of paper to anything you want. So lots of fun little things over here. This is the Stackii. This is our board game adjacent of the day. From there, let's go ahead into two that are unfortunately not funding, both of them real-time games, interestingly enough. We have Dogfight, 99 backers, $4,700 raised, 25 days to go. This launched a few days ago. As of right now, it's 50-50 as to whether it'll fund or not. The fact that they got, halfway to the funding goal in the first 4 days is okay, but not great. So it's possible they'll cross that finish line, but it's definitely falling into that. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. We may be looking at a cancellation and relaunch. We may be looking at someone lipping across the finish line over here, but this is basically Dogfight, a real-time game of trying to, manage your ships in air as you have your teams of pilots, you have your card row, you can be playing cards down, trying to deal with them in simultaneous simultaneous play in real time. That's Dogfight from Yarn Mail Games. The first project created. We'll see what happens. And then moving on from there, we have Retrograde. This time not from a first-time publisher. This is coming to you from what's the name of the company? Synergic Games. I want to say it's Synergic Games, but I can't see the name of the company because it's a person over here. I'm pretty sure it's Synergic Games. Either way, or Resonum Games. That's the one, I think. I'm wasting time here. Retrograde, the real-time roll and write game. Again, another real-time experience. This time roll and write as you roll your little arcade meeples over here. You assign them to various cards that you're getting. The first players who get those cards will go ahead and use those cards to get the bonus, and the last player left, the one who is not able to lock in the one they want, will get what's ever left as you go ahead and then scratch off, mark off your various alien invaders as you have a combination of roll and write, a combination of real-time, and a combination of, what's the word for it? Nostalgic alien invader style gameplay. This coming to you from, I want to say, Resonum Games. What's the name of the company, and why am I blanking on this? Over here? More. We have Phantom Inc., Monarch. Where is the name over here? Resonum. Here we go. I think, yeah, Resonum Games, I believe, the company. They have a few games under the belt, a few games that I've had the chance. They have Surrealist Dinner Party. They have a bunch of games under their belt, Mechanica, something like that. But anyways, this is Retrograde. And again, same problem. We have halfway to the funding goal, $9,000, basically $10,000 on a $22,000 funding goal. That does mean that is similar to Dogfight. We're looking at either a cancellation and relaunch or limping across the finish line. Just the degree of traction they have. It's possible we'll get there. It's possible we'll not. We'll have to wait and see. But that's Retrograde, the real-time roll and write game from Resonum Games. From there we have Bloc By Bloc, Uprising. This is going to be one of a few GameFound campaigns, and by a few I mean two. We have Bloc By Bloc Uprising. This is their first GameFound, I guess. This is the third printing of Bloc By Bloc, a game that in general has been hard to get your hands on. They have the first printing, they have the second printing, they have the third printing. I love how I explained to you what it means when they have a third printing. I like goes one step at a time. Like, this is the fifth printing. That means they have the first, second, third, and fourth printing. That's how fifth printings work. Thank you very much. I'm doing my job here. Let's do the Lord's work. Let's go ahead and have some coffee. Coffee's always a good fallback for when you do things really, really strangely. Anyways, Bloc By Bloc. Bloc By Bloc is a game of insurrection. A lot of content out over here. I highly recommend checking out with 3-Minute Board Games. He's a great overview of the game, and he's, in general, been very positive with the prior iterations of the game as well. But there's a bunch of content you can check out for this game. Again, it's been around for a while. I believe it's like a 7.2, 7.3 on Board Game Geek, something like that. We have a phenomenal showcase over here from Tim Chun. Basically, this is their third iteration of the game. There is an upgrade pack if you are someone. Let's go ahead to the Solidary, the Upgrade to Rising. The Upgrade to Uprising, $16 for an upgrade pack for first or second edition owners, or $44 for straight up Join the Uprising, which if you compare it to the secondhand market now, it's a fantastic price. Like I said already, this is basically a game of insurrection. It's a game of block by block insurrection as you deal with the police slowly taking over, it's a cooperative experience as you try to figure out how to fight back the police and beat back the police as you go through the sequencing over there. In general, the game is, like I said already, well rated as being both thematically incredible as well as mechanically sound, and this is the third iteration. Now this at $44 for the game, plus shipping, plus all of that stuff. In general, I would say this is likely a good price for the game, considering the fact that in general this game has had very low retail availability. This is a game that usually has been, hit their Kickstarter, hit whatever, and then gone out of print fairly quickly. It's a game that's been hard to get your hands on, and therefore it's gone for significantly above its value. Unless this is one that suddenly changes that script, changes that mold, unless this suddenly is widely available in retail, we're likely seeing the same thing here, where that $44 is going to be a decent price for the game because it just doesn't see, it usually has a print run and then goes out of print, and then it's hard to get your hands on. So overall there does seem to be like generally a good deal over there as far as if you're someone who's interested in the game. This has, like I already said the third edition upgrade, so a bunch of upgraded components, art, things like that, streamlined rules, all that stuff, some stretch goals as well, and that is basically Bloc By Bloc from the name of the company is... It was on this page somewhere. It was on from Out of Order Games. That is that. Moving on to there, we have Broken Planet. Broken Planet, 258 backers, $21,000 raised. This is one that I'm going to have a hard time explaining. This one's actually two games today that I have a hard time explaining. Broken Planet in general, I've gone through the whole how to play video. I've gone through one of the full content creators videos as well. This is a game where you're going to be trying to gather your gemstones, trying to trade them for artifacts, trying to build temples as you try to figure out your asymmetric upgrades, the specific pathway you want to go for, whether Warmonger, Peacemaker, the specific pathways and strategies as far as how you want to play the game. I can say all those words. The problem is I don't actually know the core content concept of how you score points or what you're ultimately trying to do as you win. So color me halfway informed on this game, and only halfway informed. Pledge levels over here is going to be $32, 32 euro for the Broken Planet Green Edition, and then we have 48 euro for the VIP Deluxe Edition. Deluxe Edition is giving you, here we go, here's the options over here. You're getting a nicer insert as well as your custom 3D printed player tokens instead of standees. Overall, you can check out some content around the game. Like I said already, there's some videos around checking out the gameplay, what the gameplay is like, how to play, all of that stuff, getting a feel for it. The video is fairly well done as far as capturing some feelings of the game without me understanding the final, how do you actually win this game? What is the actual thing you're doing to score points and or win? What is the win condition? That's the one thing I was like really missing from all the videos I watched. I'm sure it's in one of them, but I missed that. But either way, 259 backers, and the price point as what it is, I think this is going to fall in the category of one that likely will not hold its value. This is just going down to the fact that whenever you have 300 backers on a game, it's just one that there's not enough overall demand for it to be locked in as something that people are going to be searching for, hunting down. The lack of demand now is going to translate over to the secondhand market. So I would say that if you're interested in this game, this is likely the best chance you have to get it. Getting on the Kickstarter now, but it's one that will likely not hold its value considering the price point of the game and the lack of demand for it at the moment. From there we have Iron Force, the next level flicking game from the creators of Ice Cool. This entire game is Kickstarter exclusive. It's worth noting, 1,500 backers, $132,000 raised, and the fact that it's Kickstarter exclusive also means I have a hard time knowing exactly where this lands. So let's go ahead and go into it first. Like I said already, this is from the creators of Ice Cool. I have a review over my channel. You can check that out. There's a bunch of other content for the game as well. This is a flicking game with another level to it, literally another level to it. This is going to be using the same system as Ice Cool did in terms of the various token types, in terms of the ways you can flick, bounce, curve, wiggle, all those things in order to figure out where you want your mechas to go in this game. But this one has another level to it in the sense that you're literally going to have the option to be able to move your mechas to the next level, but it's also going to be focusing far more on scenario-driven gameplay. You're going to have different scenarios, asymmetric scenarios at times, different factions trying to go for different goals as you try to figure out how to pass through gates, how to bump into other mechas, how to get your mechas to the fourth level, to the second level 4 times, whatever it is, different options as far as each pathway, each faction trying to pursue their objectives in the game. Combine that with some power cards, combine that with the activation of your mechas one at a time with a random deck of activation cards, trying to figure out how to plan around what you're trying to do. Combine that with trying to take out enemy mechas and reset them back to the starting zone so they can't make the progress they want to make. Lots of things going on here, but this is basically taking the Ice Cool game to the next level, pun intentionally intended, because taking it to the next level is literally about as literal as you can get. But as far as the pledge levels for this game are expensive. You have $85 for the game, and that's just because it's the same reason why it's not really going to retail. They talked about this in the FAQ or whatever it is, which is this is using a lot of stuff that's not standard for retail game. This is going to be a bigger box, going to be using a lot of basic components, the price point being what it is. All these things just make it so that this is a Kickstarter exclusive game, period, bar none. Extra scenarios, stretch goals, all those things are being unlocked, but they're all for a Kickstarter edition of the game only. And there are stretch goals being unlocked, there's extra cars, extra scenarios, things like that, as they, continue to build out and add more content to this game. Some extra things, there were some like spike cannonballs or something as one of the stretch goals. Let's see if we can go take a look over there. We had some spiky cannonballs over here, like these things over here, the shutdown, these like whatever those things are. But either way, a bunch of stuff being added to the game as far as stretch goals. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? All those things are a little up in the air. Ice Cool as a game in general, here we go. We have the mini expansion Bombshells, okay? That's going to go into your launcher and just be tossed over the game. Ice Cool as a general game has been a game that was widely available in mass market, and to a certain extent because of that, did not hold its value. It's a game that in general you can find it available very cheaply just because it was all over the place. It was easy to pick up. It went into bargain bins and whatnot. And so Ice Cool, you could regularly find the copies on the secondhand market for like $15. This is not Ice Cool. This is a game that is significantly more expensive, but also significantly more limited in its availability. There's clearly enough demand for people to be jumping on it over here, which means it's very much in the unknown category. I am somewhat skeptical that it will hold its value long term, meaning in terms of if you're someone who backs this game, you find out it's not for you, can you turn around and sell it and get your $85 plus shipping back? I'm skeptical that you can, but I'm also totally prepared for the fact that I might be wrong here. It's very unique in the game. It's very unique in what it's doing and bringing to the table. And to that end, I'm willing to guess, but I'm not willing to sound confident at the same time. So I think I'm skeptical that it will hold its value. I think that the price point is expensive for what it is, and you're going to have people comparing this to being able to pick up Ice Cool for $15, $20, $25 versus picking up this for $85 plus shipping to get your money back. I think this is one that you're likely going to take a hit on if you back it now, and if you decide, hey, you know, check it out, see if it's for you or not. And if it's not for you, I think you'll take a hit on it. That said, in general, your options are now or the secondhand market. Those are the only ways you can get your hand in it because it will not be going to retail. Moving on from there to Tindaya, the second game that I'll have a very hard time being comprehensive about what's going on here because of a variety of things. For context here, this one's not my fault. This is one that the Hungry Gamer has a 15-minute long video where he's like, this is kind of an overview because there's so much stuff going on here that, I mean, I can't really tell you all about the game. And that's in a 15-minute long video. I'm going to be trying to tell you about the game in less than 15 minutes, so good luck with that. I do recommend watching their video. Their 2.5-minute long video will not give you a how to play in the slightest, but it will give you a good feeling for separate, disparate elements of how Tindaya plays. Hungry Gamer compares it to Spirit Island with a bit more vengefulness against the various settlers as you toss them into volcanoes, which should be enough to know whether you're intrigued or not. But the game itself is going to have a few different things. First of all, it has solo, co-op, and competitive gameplay, which already means it's going to be harder to explain and go through it, but it's a game of natural disasters, it's a game of building up your resources, it's a game of trying to trade with others, of trying to take over the various invaders, whatever you call them, the people who are invaders. There's a name for them. There's a whole bunch of different things going on in the game. There's going to be settlers, there's going to be trading, there's going to be resources, there's going to be disasters, a whole bunch of stuff. There's going to be solo, co-op, and competitive. Again, just lots and lots and lots of stuff in the game. So I recommend watching their 2.5-minute video. It will give you a good feeling for small sub-elements of the fact that you can anger the gods, and they'll have different impacts depending on which god you're angering and what requirements they're going for. Are you overutilizing resources? Are you not taking care of your people? There'll be different facets of the game semi-explained in the video that will give you an idea of whether you are interested enough to dive into the 35-45 minute long videos of how this game actually plays. So lots of content is out there. You just have to first decide how interested you are and whether you're going to watch all that content. That said, we have 964 backers, we have 73,000 euro raised, and we have Red Mojo Games with an absolutely hilarious game found page. I probably should have said at the beginning. Red Mojo Games doing an absolute job with their, first of all, their page is hilarious, the video is well done, the FAQ is crystal clear. You see, FAQ, one of the things I like to look for is the differences between retail or whatnot. We have over here, game, deluxe versus retail, everything you need to know. They go over the cost, the price point. Right now, you only have an option for deluxe. If you want retail, you have to wait for it, basically. But they cover the anticipated price points. They cover where it'll be available. They'll cover the, where you can get to deluxe. You can get over here. They're going to be running a separate crowdfunding campaign, extras available, whatever. What are the differences between two editions? The differences of the two editions effectively come down to upgraded components. There's no gameplay differences. They're very against that. So it's all going to come down to upgraded components, all of that stuff as far as the deluxe edition of the game. And that's going to be stuff that we already have some unlocked, and then we have stretch goals. Specifically, you're going to have a deluxe insert. The insert's going to come with a deluxe insert that we can actually go ahead and scroll down and find a fairly decent GIF that goes to it. Here we go. I'm just going to take a sip of coffee while you watch the page. It's a thing of wonder, I tell you. Yep. This is the insert and more, and then there's stuff, and then those tokens over there, those are going to be some of the 3D options over there. 3D, they call them the 3D's disaster tokens over there that otherwise you'll get standees. So basically, the main thing they pitch, at least initially, is the insert and then the 3D disaster tokens as opposed to standees. That said, there are also stretch goals, and the stretch goals have already unlocked more stuff. They've unlocked the wall miniatures, they've unlocked the exclusive deck organizer, the fan-made screen printed meeples. We have the upgraded the canoes over here. So there are a bunch of upgraded tokens. Just look for that game found exclusive as far as seeing whether it's a component upgrade that everyone's getting or whether it's exclusive to your game found copy over here. But basically, there are options in the deluxe copy of the game. So if you want the game, you can go ahead and wait for retail, or you can get the deluxe edition of the game over here. Now, I do want to point out some particular aspects in which they are hilarious because they are very hilarious. So let me see. They had two different things in which they cover things very, very hilariously that I was very impressed with them as a company and their sense of humor, their sense of clarity. Let's see, over here. Okay, but wait, won't there be new catastrophes, new stuff to improve replayability? So they're basically focusing on the question and the conversation around stretch goals, whether they're going to be gameplay upgrades or not, and people potentially being disappointed that there's not more variety, and I am always one of those people. No matter how varied a game is, I always want more. Try this experiment. Put a tennis ball inside a pepperoni pizza box and add a mouse uranium confetti and throw in a scorpion. Close the lid and shake it for 30 seconds. Now, try to guess what the inside looks like. There'll be tomato sauce. The scorpion won't be happy. But basically, it could go anywhere, right? That's how Tindaya was designed to be fresh every time. It achieves us not by putting more things into the box, but rather by understanding that the way you mix and match things in the box is going to result in a different experience every single time. It's all about the shaking. Listen, I hear you. I hear you. I'm not sold yet until I play the game, but that is definitely an interesting way to explain how the game is going to play. But past that, we also have a bit of this thing over here about Red Mojo Games. It's a bit of a written letter as well as more corporate. In May 2021, Red Mojo was born, really? In the second basement of the main registry office? What in the world? A whole basic little thing over here. And I love how they really own this. Tindaya is Red Mojo's first project. Kiss of Death, rephrased, not even I would back this, and I'm your mother. This is just, I appreciate the tongue-in-cheek humor behind this company, behind how they're owning this is their first creation, this is their first project. They have humor from across the board, they have clarity. This is overall a very well-run page. I am more interested in the game because of having gone through the page. It's one that I still am deciding myself where I want to end up with it, but it definitely looks compelling in a variety of ways. But overall, very impressed with Red Mojo Games. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Let's go ahead and jump from the nice stuff into the more, clinical stuff. So overall, this is another one where I'm definitely on the fence about it. It ultimately depends on how well the game is received. The game over here is a deluxe edition of the game. The price point is expensive, coming in at, what is it, a 78 euro for the deluxe edition of the game, plus shipping, plus potentially VAT. This is one that is expensive. The game would have to be very good for it to justify that price point on the secondhand market for people. Again, this is why I have the whole cult of the now, because when you're looking at a game like Haunted for $36 for a fantastic, well-vetted game, comparing that up against $100 of spending for Tindaya Deluxe Edition, at the end of the day, it's always a challenge to make those comparisons. And so I have a harder time believing that this will do a good job holding its value. But if the game is good enough, then I could be wrong. Sometimes you have those gems that are worth $100. Right now, with 1,000 backers, we are looking at a certain halfway point of enough critical mass to clearly show that there's a demand for this game. But like Iron Force before, the question is the demand localized to crowdfunding, where people inevitably are willing to spend more than they would if the game were in front of them? If I were offering you Tindaya right now as a retail copy of the game, like, boom, here you go, here's 78 euro, go ahead, please pay me for the game, people would buy it less. For some weird reason, crowdfunding lets us spend money that we wouldn't otherwise spend if it were on the shelf in a game store right in front of us. And unfortunately, that does translate to, fast forward a year and a half when this is on your shelf and you're trying to sell to the next person, suddenly people find their self-control that they lost a year and a half ago. So I'm skeptical it will, but if the game is well rated enough, the game is well received enough, then suddenly it changes the conversation because people will want that exclusive GameFound Deluxe edition of the game. So it's more similar to Iron Force, it's leaning towards a no, with the caveat of you never really know. Moving on to Earth, naturally beautiful engine building, hand management, tableau building in 45 to 90 minutes. Earth is going to be coming to you from Inside Up Games, who have a bunch of games from Summit to a bunch of other games. They have a bunch, Gorse, Maximus, they have a bunch of games in the belt, I just don't know them all offhand, but Earth is going to be the engine building, hand management, tableau building game. Basically, it's another one of those games that's leaning to be like Ark Nova, that's leaning to be like Terraforming Mars, offering you the promise of building out this something or other as you have cards and you play them and they all combine and all those things. Always sounds fascinating, always compelling, always interested, and then Terraforming Mars is one of the best rated games of all time, and Ark Nova is getting hyped beyond belief, so very much leaning into that, and it's very clearly working with 4,448 backers, $227,000 raised, and part of that is the affordable price point of the game. The game's going to be coming to you for $43 for the game, and that's with the stretch goals included. So the affordable price point, meaning, again, comparing it to, let's say, Haunted, $35 still is more expensive, but comparing it to many other games you'll see over here, very reasonably priced, and so the question is, well, what's the game like? Earth is a game of card management. You're going to have a hand of cards, you're going to be playing a hand of cards every single round, you're going to be taking an action, and others are going to benefit at the same time. They have a little sequence, you can watch the video, it's a great video, I'll give you a great overview of how to play, but you're basically building out a 4x4 grid, a 4x4 tableau of cards that sometimes matters the positioning, sometimes not, so you have to factor that in, but you're basically playing cards to plant your trees, to build up your little domes over there that you have on the cards, and you're trying to do all this while taking advantage of the card bonuses, because every single card you place down gives you different colored tabs will be activated when you or others activate that specific colored ability. So there's 4 different main actions, each one's associated with a color, so you might build out an excellent yellow section of colors like this player over here, but then whenever you or another player activates the yellow action, you're going to benefit and trigger all those abilities. So you're just building up a tableau of more and more stuff happening every single turn as you ramp your way towards that 16 card build, at which point you'll get 7 endgame bonus points and then score for a variety of things from the cards themselves, from the various abilities you've locked in. There's going to be a bunch of metrics that you're trying to get first place in, similar to Terraforming Mars. You're trying to earn certain bonuses. Same idea there. And that is a higher level view of Earth. You can check out a ton of content from Quackalope. There's solo play, there's overviews, there's a 3-player gameplay, a lot of content. You can watch their video on the campaign page, which is an excellent video. Goes through a lot of the generals, how to play. I kind of skipped over some of the aspects. There's going to be the starting cars, there's going to be event cars, there's going to be all these other cars. I kind of skipped past some of those aspects while trying to give you a general high-level overview of how the game plays. But it's a great page. Both the video as well as the how to play will give you a lot of overview as far as what's going on here. Earth is a fun game. This is one where let's see, where am I up to? We have the pages, we have this, where are the stretch goals? Let's cover the stretch goals. So stretch goals over here, they do have stretch goals being added, which I somehow skipped past. Where are they? So here we go. Why back now? Kickstarter goodies. You're going to have your wooden active player marker. You're going to have your wooden leaf tokens. You're going to have your 75 wooden soil tokens. And you're also going to have your 12 card calendar pack, giving a bunch of universal modifiers to the game. The game works on a system of card colors. So each card color is a different type of card that works in a different way. No different than many of these games. But this is going to give you your 12 card calendar pack as one of the optional guys. So you have both deluxeifications and gameplay changes as far as getting it on Kickstarter now, and that's all for $42. As far as will it hold its value, will it not? I believe it will. I've had the chance to dive into Earth, only one play mind you, and this is one that I want to dive into more. I am both compelled by it while also needing more plays, more experiences in it to figure out where it lands for me. In case you're wondering, no, it's no Terraforming Mars, not for me. Then again, I don't know if ever any game will be Terraforming Mars, maybe Ark Nova, but even then I have to imagine it won't. But either way, that's a bit of a tangent. But overall, this is one that has been generally well received. I know Manvis Meeple had very positive things to say about it. I know Quackalope had very positive things to say about it. A bunch of people who have played the game have had very positive things to say about the game. I think there's a good enough game here at a good enough price point with enough Kickstarter extras that I am inclined to believe that this is a fairly safe back. I think there'll be enough general well reception to this game, enough people who are happy with the game that will want that Kickstarter copy, that they'll be willing to pay the premium to basically get your copy as opposed to paying for retail and getting that copy at that price point. Again, it's just cheap enough and there's enough extras involved that I think it's a fairly safe back. Not necessarily a guarantee you might lose $5, but I think this is as close as it gets, at least from the campaigns we've seen so far. But that is Earth. Moving on to the big one, it was just Kingdoms Forlorn, Dragons, Devils, and Kings. After this, we do have two more, but this is the big one. 5,400 backers, $828,000 raised. This is a game that will definitely cross that million mark. It's just a question of when, not really if. But Kingdoms Forlorn is the next game from Into the Unknown. They famously brought us Aeon's Trespass Odyssey, and this was also a standard that it was held against. They actually had a lot of controversy the first few days, as people, screamed to the skies, or, politely-ish mostly, but there were a lot of comments who were like, this price point versus content is not the same as Aeon's Trespass Odyssey, which is fair because Aeon's Trespass Odyssey gave you an amazing degree of price point to content, but nonetheless, they have managed to more and more match that price point to content ratio as the days have gone by, as they've revealed the stretch goals, as they've revealed additional kingdoms, as they've revealed more and more content for the game. People are getting happier and happier as they see that, no, they're not, giving them a terrible deal. They're giving them a deal. They're slowly revealing things as they go. Kingdoms Forlorn is going to be an epic adventuring game of variety of characters, each with their own intertwined backstories, and you can play the game solo, 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, the whole bunch of systems for how to play. They just recently unlocked 5th player, as far as if that's something you're interested in. They now have 5 players as an option as well. And you're going to be going through a sequence of alternating back and forth between these delves and the combats of the game. You're going to have these delves where you play down different kingdom cards, exploring the kingdom cards, making different choices, actions, all of that, and then diving into combat where you'll deal with either mobs or bosses, maybe both. I haven't seen both yet, but maybe they have both. Mobs and bosses, either a bunch of characters you're fighting against or a singular titular boss character, each with their own slight differences as far as how they go. They're very much leaning into their inverted combat paradigm, their ICP, the idea that instead of having people getting weaker as the game progresses, as you get hit, you get stronger, as they get hit, they get stronger. Both you and the enemy are constantly leveling up, getting more and more powerful, getting more and more aggressive and in each other's faces and dealing more damage as the game progresses. So it has that inverted combat paradigm. Things scale up as you get hit, not scale downwards. Past that, there's a ton of content for the game. There's a bunch of kingdoms for the game. We've had some kingdoms unlocked already. It sounds like there's going to be more to come. This was over here. The Sunken Kingdoms of Utrabant over here was unlocked over here. You're going to have a bunch of meeples, and not meeples, a bunch of standees and miniatures, and they're very heavily leaning into how customized each character is, as opposed to having, 50 zombies like you'd find in Zombicide. You might have a set of 8 characters, but each one has their own constant set of different cards for different skill levels, for the tier 1, tier 2, 2, Tier 3. And so there's a ton more variety in terms of how each mob of characters, bosses and mobs all behave. So an absolute ton of content for the game, just not necessarily as miniature heavy as you might be looking for. They have more and more stretch goals, they have daily unlocks, they have a variety of saints being unlocked, a variety of content for the game, and they have 2 different core pledge levels over here. They have a core game pledge level, which is $158 for the core game, and then they have the $251 for the elite core pledge, which is going to give you the 10,000 Succulent Fears Deluxe expansion, which is this expansion that you can find over here. There's a ton of content for this game, so scrolling through is hard on this one. But we have the core game, the Principality of Stone, the Sunken Kingdom, the unlocked stretch goals. Again, lots of content, both miniatures and standees. Lots and lots of cool things. I do recommend watching the video. Great video to watch as far as going through the showing the miniatures, showing some of the backstory, the way that they're trying to approach the design of the game, and going through, where are we over here? I'm trying to find the 10,000 Succulent Fears Deluxe expansion, an additional $93, but giving you the Schwarzreich and Ancestor runes, which are like these sub-kingdoms in the game. We're going to have the all unlocked stretch goals, which give you some of the miniatures for the various standees you'll find in the game. So if you want some of the things upgraded from standees to miniatures, you can go ahead and focus there. You can get more vassals, stone-faced knights, all these different things over here, the young Devour Dragon, so a lot more content in that pledge level. And we have 2,354 backers at the high pledge level, 1,000 backers at the core game pledge level, and then I guess we have a whole bunch more at the dollar pledge, at least as of right now. So a whole lot of content for the game, a whole lot of things, and speaking of content, there's a lot of content creation around the game as well. Speaking for myself, I put out my coverage of the game already, my first impressions. This was not a game for me, but at the same time, if you look at a variety of other content creators, a lot of people seem to be very impressed by the game. We have King of Ravage like the game, we have Legion of Games, we have a bunch of other people. Mike from One Stop Co-op Shop had mostly positive things to say. We had Beastie Geeks. A bunch of people have put out coverage around the game, so check out all the things from myself to Quacklope to whoever, any number of people going for the various opinions that you're looking for over there. Overall, as far as will it hold its value, will it not, for the most part, I'm pretty confident it will. These types of games tend to do well, and there's enough positive opinions from people who like this genre of game that I think this is one that will hold just fine. I think this is one, regardless of whether it was or wasn't for me, I'm still on the fence as to whether it's even a genre for me, as opposed to people who this is a genre for have clearly enjoyed and appreciated the experience and liked a lot of what the game is showing, and that's only a prototype. So I think this is one that is still overall a safe back. I think like Alien's Trespass Odyssey, you may want to lock this in now before it hits the Pledge Manager, because Alien's Trespass Odyssey, I don't know what the plans over here are, but Alien's Trespass Odyssey was definitely a game that as it hit the Pledge Manager, it got more and more expensive in price as time went on. That may well hold true now as well. So if you want to lock in the game, if you want to get this price point, think about like Kingdom Death and Kingdom Death 1.5 whatever. The first one's always the cheapest. The first one's always the time where you jump in, you get in early, you believe in something before it's even a thing, and you get that earlier dispensation. Dispensation is probably the wrong word, but you lock it in, you get what you need over there. Versus over here, you might be paying a little bit more of a price point, but you're also paying it from a company that's established with a caveat, and that caveat is, despite all the positive things I just said, Alien's Trespass Odyssey is a game that hasn't yet delivered. And so you do have to factor that in at the same time. This is a game that, while I am confident in the end result of where things are going to head up over here, at the same time, my confidence is not a guarantee. Alien's Trespass Odyssey has been out on Kickstarter for a long time. It has not yet delivered. It's gone through multiple delays. All the excuses of the world and all those things, I'm very sympathetic to those delays, but at the end of the day, this is a second campaign for the next sequence in a game for the first one hasn't delivered. So just factor that into your decision. Not so much about whether it'll hold its value or any of that, but more just about what kind of wait time you're looking for, what kind of wait time you're prepared for, because you may see a wait here. I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary, but I do want to make sure that you are aware of that before you jump in. So overall, I'm confident it'll hold its value, fairly confident, just the nature of this genre and the nature of enough positive opinions being had, but just factor in the wait time and whether this is a game for you or not. Moving on to Trinity of Reign. 380 backers, $39,000, 16 days to go. Trinity of Reign is a relaunch from a game that was on Kickstarter, unfortunately canceled, and now they're back on Kickstarter. This time with a single pledge level of $86. Well, actually, it's not true, it's a lie. The starting pledge level of $86 for the Warrior Pledge and $108 for the King's Pledge of the game. This is not a cheap game to get into, which is one of those tough ones because I'm basically going to tell you that I really, really like the game, and it's an incredible game, and if you like area control games, this is worth getting, this is worth paying attention to. It is a solid, solid game. At the same time, it's also expensive, and I'm skeptical that it will hold its value. That's the short and sweet of everything. You can check out my review of the game. Of the original one was on Kickstarter. I don't know what changes there have. I haven't been to it. I know they made a bunch of changes to the pledge levels. I don't know if they made any changes to the gameplay itself. but overall, I really enjoyed this game. It was managed to give me something new in the genre of area control. It managed to feel incredibly tight. It kind of felt like if somebody took Risk and just expanded and then combined it with Kingsbridge, combined it with a little bit of Inish, combined with a bunch of games all mixed together and gave you a very solid experience that was incredibly rewarding. Trinity of Reign is just a very, very solid game. I really, really enjoy it. But also, it's expensive, which means I'm going to go straight from telling you how good this game is to saying at the end of the day, with 380 backers, I mean, we'll see where the campaign ends up. Maybe it'll be 500, maybe it'll be 600. But at the end of the day, this is still one where I'm skeptical it will hold its value. The price point is not cheap for the gameplay, which means you're going to have people who have to really believe in it. And at the end of the day, my biggest critique was I don't think it looks great either. I don't think it looks great. I think the miniatures look nice. I think the board, the components, all that stuff, I wish it were more premiumized or whatnot. But overall, I think it's an excellent game. So I'm kind of giving you a whole bunch of good and bad news at the same time. For context, this is one that I will be backing because it's a really, really good game, but it's also one that I'll be backing with the knowledge and understanding that I'm backing it because I love the game, and it's one that I just don't think will hold its value overall. Like Broken Planet, like Iron Forest, like Tindaya, at the end of the day, the price point on this, when you compare it against something you could pick up brand new for $50 or whatever it is for something like Inish, that will be well vetted, well rated, and been around for a long time, just makes this a hard sell. That said, it was good. Very, very, very good, so I'll be going ahead and getting this one. So a bit of a mixed bag of emotions all over the place. This is Trinity of Reign. If you like area control, I recommend taking a look at it, but I just have a hard time believing it'll hold its value. Moving on, and lastly, to Dinosauria, the microgame plus expansion plus poker playing cards. 160 backers, $2,800 raised. The art looks great. The game looks fun. I'm curious about this one. I'm very curious where this one goes. This is basically a microgame, a mini-game, a game of 1 to 2 players as you try to figure out how to build out your dinosaurs most efficiently. Capture your dinosaurs or get the dinosaurs, breed the dinosaurs, whatever it is, then have your dinosaurs produce more babies and go through this sequence as you play off against an AI opponent. You're playing it either 1 or 2 players, although with the expansion you can also play it 1, 2, or 3 players, but it's a bit of a micro game, utilizing whatever dice or pennies or tokens you have on hand. Think Splendor to a certain extent, combined with some other game. They had a thing over there where it said Splendor combined with something else, but that's basically what Dinosauria is. It's going to be 18 cards for the base game, 18 cards for the micro expansion, so you're looking at 36 total cards for this micro game of breeding dinosaurs. The art looks amazing, and then they have a poker deck as well, which I don't really care as much about, but maybe you do. The poker deck has its own art that you can go ahead and check out, all of that stuff. This is going to run you basically, for the print and play, you can get $3 or $6, for $10 for the base game over here, and $19 for the Galactic Paleobiologist for the expansion and base game. That's $36 total, and then you have $19 for the that's what do we get? The Dinosaur Mega Lead over here. We have the Collector's Edition Poker Deck, giving you that option if you want that as well, combined with the Poker Deck. What did I do wrong here? It's $10 for something, and then it's $19 for the next gen. And then over here, $19 is the poker deck. So you can get the poker deck by itself, plus the print and play. You can get the game itself, you can get the game and expansion, or you can get the all together for $34. Overall, this one looks fun, looks cute. I'm not sure whether it's good or not. I'm compelled by it, doesn't mean it's good. At the end of the day, this is one that will not hold its value. Micro games very rarely do. At the same time, if you want to get it, this is usually the best time to get it. Again, in general, when it comes to these smaller packages, if you want to get it, Kickstarter is usually the best opportunity, but it's one that they rarely ever hold their value just because of the price point versus the shipping versus all that stuff. They just generally don't do a good job in the marketplace. If you're interested in it, I would recommend getting on Kickstarter, and if you're not interested in it, then we don't really need to have this conversation. But that is basically Dinosauria, the microgame expansion, poker playing cards, all of that stuff. Which brings us to the picks of the week. In general, for this, I do 2 picks of the week. I do a pick of the week of the game that interests me the most from what am I personally the most interested in, and then secondly, I do the what's most likely to hold its value. And to that end, the game that is most likely to hold its value, the game that is almost certainly the safest bet over here, is Kingdoms Forlorn. At the end of the day, there's always demand for this style of games. They clearly have done a good job of pulling people in. 5,000 backers, even at the price point that is no small feat. It's going to cross $1 million. You're going to have plenty of people who are interested in this game now and in the future, Kingdoms Forlorn is likely the safest bet on the table. As far as personal interest pick of the week, I debated Earth. I played Earth, and I'm not yet convinced, but I want to dive into it fully. To be clear, not yet convinced doesn't mean it wasn't good. It means it was good, but I'm comparing it against Terraforming Mars, and so I want to dive back into it. I want to see where it goes. At the end of the day, though, rather than going with Earth, which was my close almost pick, I am going with Trinity of Reign instead, because Trinity of Reign was just very, very good. I really like this game. It is expensive. I'm not going to try to sell you on the fact that it's not. You have to want this game, but it is such a good addition, or was such a good addition to our area control genre. For context, it's one of those games that I introduced to my general game group, and they still ask for it. These are people who I generally don't introduce games to that are prototypes or anything else unless I believe it is worth their time and attention, because practically speaking, I don't want to burn out my game group on prototypes that I signed up for and they didn't. And so this is one that they played, they asked for again, they want to dive back into. This is Trinity of Reign. It is a solid game, and it's my personal interest pick of the week. And with that, that is everything. I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Thanks for bearing with me and my saga of computer problems. It's just so much time that I spent over the past several weeks on this stuff, and it was just the wrong cable. In any case, have a good one. If you made it this far, I have a little extra for you, okay? This is something that I've talked about briefly before. I've kind of hinted upon it, more so than talked about it. But just because they're starting to show up on Kickstarter pages, I'll go ahead and tell you about it. There's a secret channel that may or may not be secret to depending on any number of you, but now it's whoever made it to this video. But there's a secret channel out there called Quack & Co. Okay, we don't talk about it at all, generally. We just say things like, oh, Quack & Co., that's not a thing unless you search for it. We kind of drop hints. We're trying to be funny about it. But Dogfight over here, a skirmish game in the style of Captain Soda, if you see that blue and yellow banner, that's in Quack & Co. video right there. Earth over here, there's going to be another Quack & Co. video somewhere on this page. Let's see if we can find it. Quack & Co. Quack & Co. Here we go. First look, Earth. You see that blue and yellow? That's the Quack & Co. banner, the thumbnail, so to speak. Basically, Jesse and I, Quacklope and I, we have a separate channel that we started a few months ago, and we've slowly been posting content to. It's basically, the whole trend of it is it's 10 minutes or less. Every single video on the channel is 10 minutes or less. It's fast, it's to the point, it's quick overviews. It's not me rambling on for, what are we up to, 40 minutes so far. It's basically going to give you the content you want in a very short form content. Just, high points, quick notes, all that kind of stuff. The goal is short form content. And also because we want to talk about more games, but we don't want to flood our channels with too much stuff. So we have a secret channel. Go ahead and check out what's there. I believe today's video was, I'm not sure. Today's video is either another mechanic video. I'm slowly going through board game mechanics. I may have done hand management today, if I didn't already. Or alternatively, it's 5 ways to get better at Inish, a new series I'm starting on, just like tips of how to get better at certain games. Usually games that I'm decent at and have played a lot of times. I don't do tips on how to get better at games that I've played 4 times, just for context. But either way, that's just your little fun tip of the day. Quack & Co. Let's go ahead and go to the channel. Let's see what we got here. Let's go here. Let's go. Oh, that's a Jesse video. We alternate. Some videos we do together, other videos we alternate, but it's basically just doing stuff over here. You see, Quack & Co. videos, the two of us, just going through a whole bunch of things. First impressions, overviews, previews, covering mechanics, covering the best and worst. It's a format where we pick the best and the worst part of a video, of a game that we like or don't like. Stuff like that. Just showing you things. Just figured I'd show you as my little fun tip of the day in case you made it this far. In any case, have a good one.